everyone. This is Yuri Godard for your Bread of Life channel, and today we're going to continue with our study of the prodigal son's journey through the beatitudes. We have spoken about the prodigal son's attitude in coming to the Father. He was poor in spirit when he came to his senses and realized that he had nothing in himself that could change his misery, but the Father had. That he had nothing in himself, that he was starving to death, that he was suffering. The first step he gave was to reach the end of himself and turn back to the Father. He was mourning and contrite and broken. He wasn't indifferent to his own situation, and he was in deep repentance. "Father, I have sinned," he said. He was meek toward God. One's meekness toward others means gentleness and humbleness. The root of being meek lies in a complete trust that the Father has a better judgment of the situation. In relating to others, it works out in doing good and praying for those who attack you, because you know that your inheritance lies with the Lord. And the prodigal son had wasted all of his inheritance in himself, but when he turns back to the Father and wholly rely on the Father's justice instead of on his own strength or rights, he puts himself in a position of inheriting the land, the plans and the dreams of God for him. He was also hungry. In fact, he was starving to death. We all know that the story of the prodigal son reflects the spiritual principles that play out through the story. He had a hunger and a realization that only the Father could fulfill that need. Does that sound familiar? Augustine of Hippo once said, "Because God has made us for Himself, our hearts are restless until they find rest in Him." With that said, we posed the question, when was the last time you were so hungry for God's presence, so desperate for Him that nothing else mattered? The reality in the prodigal son's story and in our lives is that the level of hunger we allow ourselves to have will determine the level we will experience the Father's arms involving us, kissing us, His love overpowering all our reasonable and measured reactions. We want more than we have, right? More of Him. Are you desperate enough for Him to leave everything you have, everything you are, and turn all your being to find the Father's arms? Hungry and thirsty. Today we will speak about the Father's response. Let's read Luke 15 from 20 to 22 that says, "So he got up and went to his father, but while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion for him. He ran to his son, threw his arms around him and kissed him. The son said to him, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his servants, 'Quick, bring the best robe and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet.'" Here is the father's response. The father saw him while he was a long way off. He was waiting for his son. He was missing his son terribly, and then all of a sudden he sees his ragamuffin son. Imagine a stormy day at sea, your ship yielding to a relentless wind, pummeled by crashing waves, subject to the awesome force of nature, a force that is both fierce and majestic, a power that is nothing short of furious. Such is God's intense, consuming love for His children. It's a love that knows no limits and no boundaries, a love that will go any lengths and take any risks to pursue us, This love reminds me of the passage in Song of Solomon 7:10 that says that I am my beloved's and his desire is for me. Brennan Manning, author of the book The Ragamuffin Gospel, uses the term furious longing to describe God's desire for us. And he says that when he realized this furious longing that God has for us to be in the place of intimacy with him, a number of beautiful things happen. Number one, the drum beats of doom in your head will be replaced by a song in your heart, which could lead to a twinkle in your eye. Beautifully written. You will not be dependent on the company of others to ease your loneliness, for he is Emmanuel, God with us. The praise of others will not send your spirit soaring, nor will their criticism plunge you into the pit. Their rejection may make you sick, but it will not be a sickness unto death. In a significant interior development, you will move from I should pray to I must pray. You will live with an awareness that the Father not only loves you, but he likes you. You will stop comparing yourself with others. In the same way, you will not trumpet your own importance, boast about your victories in the vineyard, or feel superior to anyone. You will read Zephaniah 3:17 and 18 and see God dancing for joy because of you. Off and on throughout the day, you will just know that you are being seen by Jesus with a gaze of infinite tenderness. The Father was filled with compassion for him. I did a little study on the term filled with compassion or moved with compassion in the Bible, especially because this term is used to describe the Father's heart, Jesus' heart, and the heart we're supposed to have. The word compassion or the sentence filled or moved with compassion comes from a Hebrew concept. The Hebrew concept is that the bowels were the seat of our emotions, not the heart as it is in our culture today. This Hebrew expression, repeated in the New Testament over and over, says that a person's bowel is twisted in pain in such a way toward a situation that this person cannot contain what they're feeling on the inside. Here's what happens. They are moved into doing something about it. It happened in the Bible when Joseph finally revealed to his brothers who he was. His bowels were twisted in pain, and he ran away to another room and started pouring out his tears, crying his eyes out. But obviously, we aren't just talking about an outburst of emotions. We're talking about a divine compassion, a divine reaction, a divine response. This divine response is that God himself is shaken from inside out, if you can put it like this, in compassion. This is how Charles Spurgeon puts it when he comments about the parable of the lost sheep, which is part of the same story, the prodigal son, and that we're talking about. And here's how he puts it. He has a deep sympathy with each stray heart. He knows the sorrow that sin brings, the deep pollution and the terrible wounding that comes from transgression. He grieves over each lost sheep, for he knows the misery that lies in the fact of being lost. If you have ever been in a house with a mother and a father and daughters and sons when a little child has been lost, you will never forget the agitation of each member of the household. See the father as he goes to the police station and calls at every likely house, for he must find his child or break his heart. See the deep oppression and bitter anguish of the mother. She's like one distracted till she has news of her darling. You now begin to understand what Jesus feels from one whom he loves, who is engraved on the palms of his hands. His compassion transcends the compassion of parents, the compassion of an infinite heart brimming over with an ocean of love. This one thought moves the pity of the Lord. If he loses one of them. This love and compassion from God are so powerful, are so amazing. It's just really unfortunate that many who believe do not experience this reality of God's love. In the story of the prodigal son, there are in fact two prodigal sons. One was lost in the world, while the other was lost in the house of the Father. The one who walked through the beatitudes is the one realizing and experiencing the Father's love in ways the other son cannot begin to understand. And that's why the Father calls not only the prodigal son that is lost in the world to come and experience his love, but also the prodigal son that is lost in the Father's house to experience him in fullness, to experience his love in fullness, to enjoy his presence, to see the Father delighting over you, delighting over him with singing, as it is written in Zephaniah 3:17. Song of Solomon 2 from 10 to 13 say, My beloved spoke and said to me, Arise, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. See, the winter is past, the rains are over and gone. Flowers appear on the earth. The season of singing has come. The cooing of doves is heard in our land. The fig tree forms its early fruit. The blossoming vines spread their fragrance. Arise, come, my darling, my beautiful one, come with me. God himself is calling us to this place of intimacy, and the beauty of this furious longing of God for this place of intimacy is that he doesn't just sit and wait. He pursues us. The Bible says that the Father ran to his Son. The foundation of the furious longing of God is the Father, who is the originating lover. The Son, who is the full self-expression of that love. And the Spirit, who is the original and unending activity of that love, drawing everything to himself. I once was also lost. If I look back many years ago, I have this vivid memory of a 17-year-old Yuri giving pamphlets in the streets of Rio. I was still in high school and I was working as well so that I could bring money home, help my family to survive. But I was busy doing a lot of other things. I was drinking alcohol every day as well as using drugs, I was so angry with everything and with everyone. I had this suicidal thoughts. In fact, I tried a few times to commit suicide. I had, this murderous thoughts, angry. I was depressed, purposeless. I had very little self-worth. And that was me. But then there was this one morning, I remember, it was a sunny day, it was like 10:30 in the morning, and I was like kind of hungry, but lunch was only at 1 o'clock, and there was nothing I could do about it because I had no money with me. I was smoking my cigarette as I was giving pamphlets, and I was singing this song that we made for a friend of mine that had died. It was my best friend, and he had been murdered by the police. because he was involved in the big drug cartel thing. So he was caught in a situation. But I was singing this rap, this song, and then I saw there was this couple, this man and woman, older, looking at me. They had just rented the store that, I happened to spend most of my day in front giving out pamphlets. When I finished singing, they asked me to sing it again, and they started asking me questions like, why there was so much sadness in the rap, and who was the guy that I was singing about, and how he died. And they also asked me if I was involved in this whole drug cartel drama thing, and I said, yeah, I'm involved. And it was like, for me, it was a thing that made me proud. It's one of those things, They then asked if they could pray for me, and I remember that time I almost literally ran away from them. I wanted to run away, but I said, it's okay. So they prayed for me, and through much prayer and much kindness and love, they ended up inviting me to go to church. And when I finally went there, that one night, I really gave my heart to Jesus. I really gave my life to Him, and I had this personal encounter with Him. And from that moment, I really felt like I was really lost, but something had changed. And I could say I'm found in Him. It's the furious love of the Father that was coined by Chesterton when he spoke of the furious love of God. He was referencing the enormous vitality and strength of the God of Jesus seeking union with us. Rich Mullins sought to describe the same longing of God, and he wrote this, in the reckless, raging fury that they call the love of God. Employing adjectives such as furious and passionate and, aching to describe the longing of God, have become my thing now. Both theology, which is faith seeking understanding, and spirituality, which is the faith experience of what we understand intellectually, offer a glimpse into the mystery. Now we see only reflections in a mirror, mere riddles. 1 Corinthians 13:12. And there's this guy, Brennan Manning, is one of my favorite authors with, really great books, but there's nothing better to describe the furious love of God than, he says that, than the way that Jesus gave Himself for us on the cross. Jesus is the ultimate expression of God running towards us with a furious love, with a furious longing, a longing for intimacy. On the cross, Jesus brought us back to the Father. Before we get to the Father, note that when the Son gets to the Father doesn't say anything about his past life. The Father doesn't give him a sermon. The Father loves with an immeasurable love. And I just want to mention that we don't ever overcome sin on our own strength, but by being immersed in the presence of God, by being full of the Spirit of God, by feeling this love of God in us, we abide in Him to be able to give fruit, and in this unending, unexplainable love that transforms us. That is what turns our lives upside down. It's the arms of the Father. Familiar words may be so familiar that they are no longer real. Those words were not only real, but also revolutionary to the 12 disciples. Pagan philosophers such as Aristotle arrived at the existence of God via human reason and referred to Him in vague, impersonal terms. the uncaused cause, the immovable mover. The prophets of Israel revealed the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob in a warmer, more compassionate manner. But only Jesus revealed to an astonished Jewish community that God is truly Father. If He took the love of all the best mothers and fathers who have lived in the course of human history, all their goodness, kindness, patience, fidelity, wisdom, tenderness, strength, and love, and united all of those qualities in a single person, that person's love would only be a faint shadow of the furious love and mercy in the heart of God of God the Father addressed to you and me at this moment. We hear a beautiful echo of this in chapter 8 of Romans, that Paul says, "For you did not receive a spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you received the spirit of adoption, through which we cry, Abba, Father." Romans 8:15. And Abba just means daddy. And I want to mention the arms of the Father. That is this place where God's furious pursuit of us is meant to take us. To the kiss of heaven, to the arms of the Father, to the place where we experience Him in ways that only you will be able to say. Because it's between you and Him, and I urge you, get it between you and Him. Go to Him. The furious love and longing of God is calling us to experience Him in His presence. We should live a normal Christian life, and the normal Christian life is abiding in the Father. Is abiding in Him. Abide in me. Come so close. Live inside of my arms, inside of my hug. Where we just experience this exchange, where seeking Him is no longer a chore, but it's just this amazing life that we walk with Him. Guys, let's do this. Blessings. Blessings to you all, beautiful people.